What are jobs that have the highest pay simply because most people just don't want to do them? My cousin is an EOD, explosive ordnance disposal technician. She was never in the military, but most of her jobs are as a contractor at military facilities. She takes contracts all over the country that are generally weeks long. The contracts include a really good base pay, plus per diem and housing stipends. If she can drive there, she'll take her big truck, her dogs, and her big tent and just camp so she can bank the housing stipend. She makes enough that when she wants a break, she can just not accept any contracts for a few months and hang out at the house with land, woods, and a barn she bought from that job. She loves it. She once told me she could get me in, and I briefly thought about it because most of it sounds appealing. But then I remembered I'm an anxious individual who overthinks everything and is convinced the worst thing will happen. I would stress myself out into an early heart attack if I took a job where one small error equals a major incident. Right? Nobody ever gets fired from bomb disposal for incompetence too, right? Story 2. I've heard simultaneous interpreters for the UN get paid a substantial amount and the work is extremely stressful. I'm sure part of the high pay is due to the necessary skill level, but it's extremely mentally draining to listen and interpret in real time for sometimes hours on end. Not to mention, sometimes they're interpreting for individuals accused of severe crimes while those individuals are detailing their actions. Apparently, most of them don't last more than 10 years in the role. Story 3. I worked in IT for a truckload brokerage company that had a lot of agencies move all sorts of shipments, think like insurance having agents throughout the country, and we provided the tech and financing. We had some really specialized agencies that shipped huge equipment, massive turbines, explosives, and also fireworks. The drivers that shipped some of the explosives and fireworks literally couldn't have an accident or ticket on their record in their lives, even as teenagers driving a car. They were shipping some highly volatile chemicals. One of them would become unstable if it got hit, got too hot or too cold, or touched water. Basically, if it was exposed to the outside world, major incidents would occur. Some of these drivers got paid, back 15 years ago, like $10, $15 per mile. They didn't own the equipment either, so imagine you're driving a truck for 500 miles, which was typically less than a day's work. They were grossing $7,500. These drivers, of course, were the best of the best, and the shipments that paid that well were generally rare. I know one driver had driven 10 million miles without an incident or ticket. That blew my mind. Story 4. People management. It's a weird role. Higher-ups don't want responsibility for a section of business, so they create a management role to do it who they can dispose of if they don't do it well. Most people that want to do it are bad for the job because they want to not do the work or have responsibility. So they kick the disposability can further down the chain and you end up with no people who know what to do. The best people for management roles absolutely don't want to do it because they already know how hard it is to get some team members to work together and the true hell of the workload they're all under. So you're left with someone who doesn't understand the work or know the people very well, trying to dictate what gets done because they'll get fired if it doesn't. The best managers can actually do most of the work, but usually physically need someone restraining them from doing the work so they can concentrate on making sure everyone's going in the right direction. The luckiest managers have a bunch of staff that already know the right direction and just have to balance resource expenditure. But managers generally get paid well because they're the first point of firing. You can't get rid of the people who actually know how to do stuff unless the manager is a good liar. Story 5. Blue-collar work, most of it. It's not necessarily about immediate high pay, but you can get in without a degree and work your way up. My brother is a plumber and he makes $140,000, and since he got the job about 5 years into his career, he only does quote-unquote new construction, no cleaning dirty stuff, etc., just putting new things in. My dad lives in another state and said he's seen job listings that would give $30,000 to move you there to do the work. I know of people that move to the need areas every time this happens and get that bonus pay every few years if you're willing to move around. Story 6. There was a career fair at my community college welding class. The highest paying job was traveling to repair communications towers. Applicants must be willing to climb 500 feet in the air and do dangerous work in all kinds of upstate New York weather. These antennas are in the middle of nowhere, so the assignments are 5 to 6 days long, meaning you're living out of a hotel and eating gas station food. No one in the class was interested in applying for that job. I make less money and sleep in my own bed, eating real food close to the ground. Story 7. Many of the highest paying jobs that struggle to attract workers are the ones that are dirty, dangerous, or physically demanding. Think of commercial diving, underwater welding, oil rig crews out in the ocean, high-rise window washers, or the folks who maintain sewers and septic systems. They pay well in part because the hours are long, the conditions are rough, and not many people are willing to do them. Even jobs like crab fishing in Alaska or hazardous materials cleanup come with high wages precisely because the work is so challenging. Story 8. Printer repair. Everybody hates dealing with printers, but if it's all you do, you learn all the ins and outs, and it's honestly not that bad. And it pays damn well. I made $55,000 a year working banker's hours indoors with no hard manual labor on nothing but a high school diploma. That enabled me to go pick up some training and springboard my career even further, but it was that first crucial step. It paid enough that I was comfortable enough to focus on the future and left me with enough time and energy to spend on school in the evenings. If you're stuck on the help desk and desperately want something better, go check out Xerox. Story 9. My dad did demolition work. When we'd drive through cities, he could point out cuts he had done on structures like freeways. Most of the people he worked with own million-dollar homes in California. If you're not careful, it will break your body. My dad told me there were specific jobs so dangerous and backbreaking they only had a single old-timer doing it. No one wanted to learn it. I think it was cutting concrete walls, but I simply cannot remember at the moment. He could literally make what I make in 60 hours bi-weekly and under 40 hours a week. While the job was also unionized, so that helped a lot. Story 10. Correctional officers make very good money with great benefits in some states and counties. Other places, not so much. It can be extremely stressful and downright dangerous in some facilities. It all depends on the type of facility you're working in and how well it's administered, staffed, and funded. It's shift work, and depending on where you're working, it can take years to get weekends off. It's definitely not a job for everyone, but some do very well at it. Many women make great officers in male facilities because they often have good communication skills and can verbally diffuse inmates without resorting to the use of force. Story 11. I'm not sure about now, but at one point the plumbing industry was struggling. I had a buddy in an industry that catered to plumbers. He said that the average age for a master plumber at the time in our area was pushing 65. They made great money. $200,000 was the average for shop owners that he serviced, but couldn't find anyone to sell or leave their businesses to because nobody wanted to deal with literal sewage every day. I believe it has corrected a little bit, but I think he said they'll still have a large experience and age gap in the industry. Story 12. I'll give you an interesting one. Australian rules football, usually referred to as AFL, umpire. Most people want to play the game and don't understand that the people enforcing the rules don't just show up, they actually have to be fit and trained. There are 4 roles in this section that exist at most levels and can chop and change around given the level. Boundary umpire. This can be the hardest worker on the ground. In a low-level match, you can still be running a long distance frequently, and a high-level match in finals, depending on the league, it can be a hell of a lot of running. The job is pretty simple. Count players in the zone at the time and call an infringement if it happens, rarely. Then run up to the boundary and watch the players until the ball goes over the line. If it was kicked out or deliberately out, signal and point and tell the field umpire what team did it. If it just went out, pick up the ball, look towards the center, and throw the ball in. If the ball is going to goals, line up at the point post to be a second set of eyes for scoring. If a goal is scored, take turns with the alternate boundary umpire to fetch and then run the ball in to start again. It's not really complicated. It can just be a lot of running, or for a slow game, a lot of walking back and forth. You learn how to take shortcuts and so on. Junior games, which will go for an hour, generally start at $20 to $25, which is always cash in hand. Once you get to professional levels, it's $40 to $50. When I was doing high-end professional work, the money was great for something enjoyable to do. Before I retired, a final was over $200 with a grand final being even more. Field umpire, this is the brainy position. Just memorize the rules and enforce them with a bit of running and alternating with another umpire. Some people can handle this, some can't, even up to professional levels. I had people who had never read the rule book, pays from $35 in juniors up to $150 in pros. Goal umpire, just signal scores. Juniors start at 20, pros it's over 100 with big games and finals being more. Ground officials, this involves various sub-roles that have to be independent, literally paperwork or directing people and so on. At junior levels, you can stack these roles at carnivals and events. I remember SANFL level doing a footy carnival making a grand in cash over a weekend. I've been retired 10 years now, and from what I've heard in Australia, soccer is similar. There's a huge shortage of officials. Story 13. As a student, I once worked in a factory where metal parts for cars were cast. There was one station where every part went through an x-ray to check for inner damage. It was the same type of part all day long. It looked always the same, but could have a small flaw, for example, some kind of small air bubble inside. It was very hard to see as the parts moved through automatically and were only shown for about 2 seconds. There were 3 guys who switched every 8 hours to watch those x-rays and find little mistakes. During one lunch break, I tried to watch it and got so tired and bored after a few minutes I wouldn't be able to do this job, but those 3 got a solid salary for it. Story 14. I'm always reminded of Robert Asprin's Myth series. In addition to being a fantasy author, he was a CPA. In one installment, a character is surprised by how much he is making as a consultant/troubleshooter for a kingdom in poor financial straits. The kingdom's chancellor, who actually doesn't like him all that much, and his business partner both sit him down and lay out the principles of salary demand. Requires a high degree of expertise and/or education, heart surgeon, concert pianist, nuclear physicist. Is dangerous and/or unsavory, Mike Rowe's dirty jobs. Takes on a lot of responsibility, reliability, CEO, police commissioner. There are exceptions, of course. Special forces operators don't make all that much despite satisfying all 3, but these are a decent guideline. Story 15. Most people see being a doctor as pretty glamorous and high paying. In the States, it is high paying, but it's not for nothing. For one, most people can't get the job as there are lots of major screens to get past, but even if you do, it's a tough sell for a lot of people. You give up 10 years of your life, often in your 20s. Just think how great your 20s were. Now give up every experience you had. You spend that time living like a student. You spend that time working around 50 hours a week undergrad, 60, 70 in med school, and then 80 to 100 in residency. Oh, and if you stop at any point in the middle or so, you are financially ruined unless you can find a job that pays $150,000 to $200,000 a year. So at the very outset, you have a lot of people that just hard pass on the life during training. But wait, there's still the actual job once you get it 10 years later. I won't go too much into detail as each specialty is different, but some highlights shared amongst most. It's a dirty job, disease and illness are your situation. You are functionally in retail and have to deal with rude quote-unquote customers almost nonstop. And on top of that, you have to deal with all types of people. To the latter part, most people downplay this, but it really is draining when you have to deal with people not just below your level of intellect, but way below. You might think Brad from The Office is dumb, but they are more or less at the same level as everyone else out there. When you deal with the open public, actually everyone, it's very different, and the difference in cognitive ability takes a decent amount of effort. It's like if you're in IT, but literally every single person you deal with is a 90-year-old who just got a computer for the first time. Not the end of the world, but it gets tiring. Story 16. I have a friend who runs a septic service. He drives around a honey wagon to pump septic tanks. He also does repairs and installations of septic systems. He inherited the business from his dad, has little competition, and can charge whatever he wants. He will also do emergency service calls in the middle of the night, but won't get out of bed for less than $1,000. He has all the work he needs, and his phone is constantly ringing. Story 17. I had a plumber come over for clogged toilets. I was embarrassed because it was caused by a bunch of toilet paper and flushable wipes in 2021. Yes, my whole family used the wipes. I was outside when he pulled out a huge solidified obstruction and it smelled extremely bad. After the worst of the smell dissipated and he was still working, I told him, "I'm so sorry for the smell. I am revoking their wipe privileges." He just smiled at me and said, "That's the smell of money. I don't care," and went on his way. I will never forget that experience, and I never want to flush inappropriate things down the toilet again after seeing it come back up. He is a joyous plumber, laughing and literally whistling probably a song about customers like me. "Smells like money," he said. Story 18. I'm not sure if it really counts, but for me the pay is decent, and it exists because people are complacent. UX research, user experience research. This involves research where you watch and analyze customer behavior instead of relying on common sense. A lot of managers feel they're secretly powerfully intelligent leaders with unique insights, so they avoid doing it because it challenges their ego. A place with it, built in, is fine. That isn't avoidance. I'm talking solely about the UX rescue teams that get built to save a product or company for this question. The ones I've seen, but intimacy sells, all we need to do is put an attractive person on it. Nope. Customers love AI bots and they're cheaper than the help desk. Nope. This'll be fine. I love a mysterious walk at night. 50% of your clients are women. Nope. I'm producing this as the paid disability solution for this venue. It needs stairs to reach it. Nope. All X people love Y, which is great because I'm not one of those X people, so I'll overcharge them. They didn't love it. You're misguided. We'll just commit fraud. The customers won't find out. No. My government solution for train fares has this gate design that crushes wheelchairs. No. And the worst one, which is always some variation of, "I don't need to waste money on research. I know exactly how people will use this." No, bad entrepreneur. One person is not a decent sample. Anyway, we sometimes get assembled and panic pay to rescue a shareholder investment because someone overlooked a basic user group like toddlers. On that topic, most XR headsets cause way more nausea and physical pain for women because, guess why? Story 19. Service plumbing. But I don't mean Billy Bob fixing your kitchen sink drain, but actual repiping the whole house, fixing your boiler, installing that new water softener. Science-based service plumbing. Someone who actually knows code and knows how to do things correctly. I'm 25. I will be a master plumber around 2 or 3 years from now. I had a paycheck this year where I pulled in over $9,000 in 2 weeks post-tax, post 15% towards retirement, and post-healthcare insurance. This was as a first-year apprentice who got his own truck early. It's not for everyone. In fact, it's not for the vast majority of people. You have to have a ton of patience, be willing to contort your body in all different ways in disgusting environments. But my wife and I are buying our first home in our 20s because of this, on just my income. Her income will come this December when she graduates and begins residency as an LPC. Story 20. I'm not sure people wouldn't like doing it, but there's a company in my area that goes around cleaning garbage bins. We have 4 cans and we pay about $55 per month to do it, and the service is great. The worker says he makes good money and does 8 to 10-hour shifts with weekends off, but he comes to my house and others on weekends for overtime. They just hook the bin up to the back of their truck to a machine and it makes them look brand new. The worker said it's a laid-back job, basically a set-it-and-forget-it process. They wipe them down when done and he's on to the next house. It's a service I never thought I needed until I used it. That way, the bins don't smell awful all the time. He said the only drawback is when the bin gets stuck and he has to unjam it, potentially getting that nasty garbage liquid on him. Story 21. Coding. Now hear me out. Whilst it takes some aptitude, writing code isn't all that difficult. Most people don't enjoy toiling hours on end to paint a graphic, and the magical boxes have lost some of their allure from the early days when they were new. Tech does pay decent money, but most folks try to get into tech and auxiliary roles. They want to be PMs, project managers, BAs, business analysts, DMs, delivery managers, service owners, governance, etc. There's a lack of strong coders. This is why you can still earn top dollar from top of the market positions. I regularly hear that's too technical when discussing fairly shallow subjects. Story 22. Sped teacher in Chicago. Working for Chicago Public Schools in the Chicago Teachers Union is one of the highest paid districts in the country. Excellent benefits, a great union, and great pay if you can handle kids with behavioral issues, and the teacher-parent bureaucracy, and putting in the hours outside of the 8 to 4 to be a good teacher. With a master's, you start out making $85,000 plus with COL adjustments every year and guaranteed annual raises. You are tenured after 3 or 4 years. I'm on that track right now. There's a huge teacher shortage, so there are plenty of programs that will pay you to become a teacher. Plus, being in Chicago, you're protected from a lot of the censorship issues happening under this administration. I haven't been in a classroom without a giant BLM flag on display. With a specialty in SPED, you can pretty much go to any school you want. Other benefits include mortgage assistance and student loan forgiveness. It's not for everyone, though, that's for sure, and it takes years to adjust to the workload. Teacher burnout is very real, but the solid income helps. I know teachers making $120,000. Story 23. Working at Intel Fab 42 a few years ago, the general contractor had given the sanitation contract to a tiny outfit compared to the larger companies we'd usually see at all the sites. So we worked 6 10-hour shifts, and I'd see the same little guy every couple of days for the better part of 2 years, and I could never get a read on him. He had the same emotionless, blank face every day. I figured this guy either absolutely hated the job or was perfectly content, but it always struck me as odd that I never saw him looking one way or the other. It probably says more about me that I still have this rattling around in my head. Story 24. While entirely department and region dependent, law enforcement is facing a crisis. My department is huge and usually underpaid when compared to our many neighboring agencies, but so few people are applying that they've had to gut standards, barely do background investigations, and push through unqualified people. They are still unable to fill classes and keep up with retirements and resignations. This led to us getting a pretty solid contract last negotiation and will likely force the city to offer another one this contract negotiation. Even with that, people still don't want this job. Given the aggressive recruitment I've seen from other agencies, they fare no better. An out-of-state agency flew 4 recruiters here and had them go recruit in precinct lobbies from active, uniformed working cops. And if you're enjoying the video too, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 25. I specialize in human resources and change management. HR exists because other functions don't want to take on the people side of work. Legal focuses on minimizing risk, not engaging directly with employees. Managers want to drive results and manage the work itself, not the human dynamics around it. So HR steps in. We bridge that gap, making sure the organization runs smoothly by translating legal requirements, supporting managers, and guiding employees. At a high level, HR exists to connect all those pieces so people and business outcomes can actually work together. Story 26. A niche, but if you grow flowers for florists, you can make bank. It's my first year, but we sold a bunch of zinnias on demand and to florists this year, along with a few thousand specialty sunflowers. The sunflowers are pretty much hands-off once they are planted with a drip line. We're selling them to florists at $1.50 per stem and have made a few thousand only a few weeks into the blooms. The rest are all spoken for before they have even bloomed, and we're set to pull in about $30,000 in flower sales this year, and it was just a test year. Our local competitors, who we will compete with next year, make a few $100,000 a year via florist sales, direct sales, and UPick. Story 27. A lot of these threads are about how plumbers and welders and linemen and machine operators make great money, and they do, but I'm going to throw a little contrast in there. I'm a dental service technician, essentially a mechanic for dentists. You need to be personable. You need to be able to work independently. You need to have a basic mechanical proficiency, no other requirements. Henry Schein will hire an utterly green tech, give them basic training, $45,000, and that person will now have a 40-hour-a-week job working in clean, kind of, indoor environments with good benefits and an annual 3% raise. After 3 years, they can jump to Benco or Midwest for a 10% raise and be sitting at $55,000, $60,000, then do it again in a few years. After the third jump or so, you'll be sitting between $80,000 and $100,000 for, again, mostly easy indoor work. Plumbers with my time in their field will be making more money than I do, but they're also working harder, and this is a huge point. You don't actually have to be good at being a dental service tech. It helps, but over the years, I've had dozens of examples of coworkers proving that competence is not a requirement. Story 28. I'm a firefighter in a mid-sized city. We start at around $64,000 a year, but get a bump at 3 years and then 5 years. Once you hit your 5-year mark, you're making $96,000 a year with union benefits, amazing healthcare, a pension, and about a month and a half of vacation time with how our schedule works. If you like doing overtime, you can easily make $120,000. Some overtime enthusiasts make up to $170,000 a year. I don't do that because you'd basically have to live at work. And on top of it all, I'm sitting on a couch watching TV 90% of the time, and people actually like you, unlike being a cop. Pretty great gig if you can get hired. Oh, and without overtime, I only work 2 24-hour shifts a week, so I have a lot of free time if I choose to stay home. Story 29. So this is more per hour than gross, but still, every piano tuner I've ever heard or spoken with has discussed how good the work-life balance is, and how if they need more money, they just accept more jobs. How they're beating away jobs with a stick because there just aren't enough hours in the day. A first-year tuner makes around $150 an hour, $40,000 a year on average in an average COL area, and goes up to $80,000 a year as you wrangle your own regulars or go to higher COL areas. Every time you look up a piano tuner, they're talking about how badly needed they are. There was a post a while back about an orchestra literally offering scholarships to people wanting to become tuners because there just wasn't enough availability in the area. You'd think that there wouldn't be that many people who want their pianos tuned, but even if you leave out the lackadaisical hobbyist who quote-unquote forgets for 15 years, churches, schools, and music professionals, concert halls, theaters, airports, hotels, and nursing homes all often have pianos that require tuning. Story 30. Biomedical Equipment Technician, BMET. We fix medical equipment in hospitals, and the job typically only requires a 2-year degree. I started slightly above $30 an hour and now make over $40 an hour working on radiology equipment. It's kind of like IT, but with only a relatively small part of the job being computers. There's a 2-year degree specific for the industry, but with the manpower shortage, it's not a requirement. I know a lot of people who've moved into this field with a regular 2-year technical degree of some kind. If you grew up taking stuff apart and figuring out how it works, then this is a perfect job to continue that kind of skill set. Like many other trades, not a lot of people know about it, so there's a good job security. Lots of people are retiring out, and not a lot of people are coming in. You need to be comfortable working around patients at times or working in the OR, and that can make it stressful at times. The money is pretty good for a job that mostly has you inside the air conditioning working normal business hours, except for on-call. Story 31. Honestly, people think high paying equals doctor, lawyer, or tech bro. But the real money is hiding in jobs nobody talks about. Ditch diggers, linemen, plumbers, elevator techs, garbage collectors, they're all quietly making $150,000, $250,000 because nobody wants to do dirty or risky work. Infrastructure emergencies don't wait for business hours. Overtime stacks up fast when pipes burst at 3 a.m. My buddy's an elevator mechanic with a high school diploma, cleared $190,000 last year. Another friend fixes gas leaks, made $160,000 being on call. Lineman neighbor, $240,000 after working on hurricane repairs. Here's the thing, these jobs aren't recession-proof. People always need power, water, and working elevators. While tech gets laid off, these guys just keep cashing checks. The jobs society looks down on, those pay bank if you stick with them. The sexy jobs everyone wants, journalism, teaching, entry-level corporate, those pay poorly because too many people want them. Most will train you and pay for certifications, no college debt, just show up ready to work. Bottom line, if you can handle getting dirty and working odd hours, there's a whole world of 6-figure jobs people ignore while chasing Instagram-worthy careers that barely pay rent. Story 32. Insurance adjuster, estimator. I work on the auto side, but most companies have house adjusters as well, or they sublet it out to independents. And just like every job, the company you work for and their policies differ. I worked for a very well-known carrier and made close to $100,000 fully work from home. That particular company culture was horrible, so I took a pay cut and went back out into the field. Base salary is now $80,000 and the benefits are amazing. I get a company car, the company pays for gas even with personal use, a pension, 401k match, health insurance that is affordable and great coverage, and a monthly stipend for internet. Technically, I only clock about 7.5 hours a day. Typically, I drive around and see 3 cars in the morning. I'm usually back home before noon and do about an hour or so of admin work. I set my own schedule on a daily basis and often don't leave my house at least one day a week. Some people sign up for the catastrophe team, hurricanes, floods, hail, etc. I make well over $100,000. The downside is you travel 3 quarters of the year and I have young kids. Story 33. I'm going to tell you a dirty secret. It's going into specialized sales. I'm a network and cybersecurity engineer by trade, working in post sales, also known as support. I'd be making $80,000, $100,000 or so, maybe a bit more or less, depending on the company. I'd be under stress, always having a fire to put out, endless tickets coming in, the possibility that I'd be on call 24/7, and everyone blames you when something doesn't work. Now, I use the same knowledge and skills, but have none of the nonsense. Instead, I use my knowledge to sell people the things I need. It's all just troubleshooting and problem solving in the end. Now I listen to a client's problems and tell them what to buy. I enable the salespeople to sell things. And I make 2.5 times what I would make post sales. I spend my week sitting in my garments on conference calls listening to, well, we would like to do whatever in the next 6 months. And then I basically tell them what to buy. About twice a week, I meet clients for lunch. I call it the chicken sandwich tour because every corporate lunch restaurant has a chicken sandwich and it's usually decent. You learn quick that you're gambling when ordering the tuna poke bowl or Asian glazed salmon, and you simply can't be eating gourmet burgers and fries twice a week in your 40s. Everyone loves me because I give them good and sound advice. I help them find fixes to new problems they're having as opposed to solving problems they have with existing products that are supposed to work. There's a huge difference here. Everyone wants to talk to you and they're always so happy to do so. I go to trade shows and I'm given bags of swag, most of which gets given to friends and whoever wants it. I have drawers of free shirts and I've given away no less than 50 branded water bottles to people. It's sickening. I'm getting paid what I should get, but the people who work harder than me get nothing. They're the real heroes, but we live in a capitalistic society and the love is always given to sales, not anything beyond that. Story 34. Real estate agent for a builder. It's like being a realtor without looking for the business. You get to have a say in what the entire neighborhood looks like, deciding what house goes on what lot, colors, options, etc. Get to watch families buy their first home and grow. But it's harder than we get credit for. Is it really difficult? No, but it's a lot of acrobatics at times. The last 3 years, with the exception of this year, my wife and I cleared $550,000. This year kind of sucked, but we are still on track for $250,000. I'm tracking 110. The biggest thing is it easily gets to your head that you're the best and the money is endless. You aren't and it isn't. You have to save for the rainy days because they do come and it's when you least expect it. I know too many people with $1,600 car payments and expensive lifestyles they can't let go of, and years like this are kicking them hard. I tell friends who aren't in the industry and I feel like I'm trying to sell them a religion or join an MLM, when reality is I see people smarter than me that work harder who make way less and I wish they'd hear me out on it. Story 35. Not nursing, lol. I've been an RN and make 6 figures working 3 days a week, but we are still vastly underpaid for what we do and the stress and responsibility we incur. Also, underpaid careers. I know that's not the post, but just trying to steer people away that are motivated monetarily. Physicians and teachers. Doctors have way too much responsibility for the decisions they make each day, and most are drowning in debt until they can develop a private practice. Most I know don't actually begin net positive income to debt equity ratio until well into their 50s, and let's be honest, teachers should be the highest paid job there is, and they just aren't compensated justly for all they do and the magnitude and importance of their work. If you know a teacher, you know they're doing it because they're passionate about their work and love what they do. Wish we'd compensate them accordingly. Story 36. Honestly, any trade type of work. A guy I went to high school with got into trouble with alcohol in college and got into a pretty serious accident while driving intoxicated. He served his time but never finished college. After he got out, nobody would hire him for a typical office job. He eventually found someone that would take him on as an AC repair apprentice for very little money. He worked his way up, became certified, and eventually opened his own business. He now has the second largest AC repair company in every major city and makes more money than I do. Story 38. Working as a banquet server in the hotel industry. You can make between $40 to $100 an hour depending on the hotel. Work is very easy. The only downside is that it's seasonal, sort of. Most people have 2 to 4 jobs working in different hotels to offset these slow weeks or months. And one hotel might be slow, but the others will be busy. You can pick and choose where you want to work when you're on call, and most of them, on the plus side, they always feed you, so you don't have to waste money on food either. Story 38. I feel like a lot of these are hard labor, high risk, specialized trades. If you don't want all of that, but you still want good pay, project management is so nice. Currently making $72,000 a year with incredible flexibility and no physical workload. I cannot stress enough that project management has incredible flexibility. It's work from home, and the mentality is that you attend or host your meetings and get the work done, but there is no strictly held schedule otherwise. I work as an IT project manager for a global corporation, and my pay is as an external contractor. The internal employees within the PMO project management office make even more and have better benefits. No degree required. Certifications can increase your hireability, but are also not required. Story 39. Kind of a stretch because it can be notoriously inconsistent, but social media and a designated niche can be highly profitable. Obviously, this is more known, but people think of generic social media influencing and don't realize just how many niches there are or the unique ways to monetize. I've worked in the social impact space, more specifically environmental education, and once people have audiences for their work, I've seen them clear $5,000 for a single post or speaking engagement, and I'd say in general that's the low end of influencer marketing. People think impact work has to be for dirt pay, but I've seen young people create really unique business models, and it's mostly centered around social media strategy. Story 40. Hospital monitor tech. It's not crazy money, but it is $50,000, $75,000 a year to sit in a room doing nothing but staring at monitors all day. You need no actual medical training or experience beyond basic resuscitation, CPR certifications, and you don't have to do any actual medical work. If something happens to one of the patients, you hit the call doctor button and then stand back and let the doctors do their jobs. It's most likely the easiest and most low effort job for that salary, and they're always understaffed because no one realizes that's a thing or that it pays decent. Story 41. Mechanic. I was making six figures in my early 20s and the early 2000s. Some techs make $200,000 or more. The key is to be very good at diagnosing issues, especially electrical issues. In flat rate, you are paid on what the job's average time to complete takes. If you are good, you can be faster than the book time and get paid for more jobs in the same amount of time. For an extreme real-life example of a job I used to commonly perform, the job pays about 8 hours to remove an engine to replace and reseal an oil pan. I found a way to do the same job without removing the engine. Under warranty, the job pays me the 8 hours, but I could perform the job in about 30 minutes and let the car sit for a few hours to dry while I work on another job. I would typically flag 75 to 110 hours in a 5-day week, but only actually work 40 to 50 hours. Story 42. I'm a high school custodian. I make $29 an hour, great pension, benefits, vacation days, sick days, and personal days. Weekends and holidays off, 2 weeks paid off at Christmas time. I won't become a millionaire, but I live comfortably. The really great thing about this job is how easy and stress-free it is. I clean my area of the school alone. It's very quiet at night. I listen to podcasts, finish my cleaning in 4 hours, and chill and watch TikToks for the remaining 4 hours. When I leave the parking lot, I don't think of work at all. It's really great. Also, the atmosphere is really positive. I love seeing all the students' artworks and learning stuff. Story 43. The best money is always made in the shadows. The jobs no one brags about at dinner parties because there's no poetry in them. Funeral directors counting grief by the hour, long-haul truckers who know the country better than the politicians who gut it, plumbers, God bless them, who see more of human failure than any priest ever will and bill you triple for the privilege. You want obscene pay? Don't look at the glamorous professions. Look at the quiet hustlers who know how indispensable they are. Waste management, repossession, elevator repair. Jobs where society can't function without you, but no one wants to think about you while they sip their cocktails. And that's the trick. The real wealth hides in the unmentionables, the capillaries of civilization where shame, necessity, and cash all meet. It's not sexy, but it buys a house faster than another MBA. Story 44. Truck driving. Back when I was over the road, I didn't have a high school diploma and was making over $200,000 a year. And some people make even more. You just have to be willing to stay out for long periods of time. In total, I maybe took off around 2 months of time a year. Did that for about 5 years until I met my now wife. We had a baby, and I got a more stable job so I could be home every day. I got my GED and started working up the ladder at this facility, currently making $90,000 a year with full benefits. I work 4 days a week. I get treated like royalty because good truck drivers are hard to find. We are still short on drivers. I'm always covering shifts and getting that sweet time and a half of overtime. Story 45. Maybe more relevant in Australia, but just about any role in higher education or university comes with higher than average pay, the highest retirement pay rates in the nation, superannuation, and insanely good benefits. Obviously, professors and deans get paid much more, but there are heaps of entry-level positions starting at 75,000 Australian dollars, about 50,000 USD, and you get the same benefits. With a bachelor's degree in a few years, you can be earning over 100,000 Australian dollars annually. Most public universities will have Enterprise Bargaining Agreement, an EBA, which guarantees pay raises for all employees every 6 to 12 months for a few years. These agreements also mean pay rates are very clear-cut, transparent, and similar across the sector. 17% on top of your salary goes to your mandatory retirement fund, works similar to a 401k. The federal minimum is 12%, and this only started increasing from 9.5% in 2021. Up to 6 weeks paid vacation leave. The national minimum is 4 weeks. We get paid leave over Christmas holidays closure too. 1 week paid carer's leave on top of 10 days paid sick leave. Carer's leave is not just for parents with 6 kids, but anyone in your household or close family member. Very generous paid parental leave up to 12 months after birth. Dedicated leave for gender reassignment surgery or hormone therapy. Study support through either the university paying for your tuition or providing paid leave for you to do a few hours of study each week and or to attend a mandatory work placement. I got 3 hours a week for 2 years and 2 weeks paid leave to do an internship at the end of my bachelor's. So many other supports and paid leave for things like domestic violence, natural disasters, family emergencies, counseling, cheap gym memberships, etc. Usually good flexibility to work from home at least 2 to 3 days a week. It's usually easy to move to another department you have more interest in once you gain experience, or you can do 6 to 12 month secondments to get experience in a new area or role without fear of losing your regular permanent job. It can be competitive to get your foot in the door, but once you're in, there's a wealth of opportunities. Look for roles in administrative, call center, student support and course advice, library, finance and payment processing, facilities maintenance, or IT support. And if you liked any of these stories, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.